From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Sorry, I don't know how email addresses work. It's March 14th, which is National Potato Chip Day, and in honor of National Potato Chip Day, I'm going to be eating potato chips and right in front of the mic during the whole episode. So it's going to be a great day today.
Every day is potato chip day.
And now, broadcasting from the Turn, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tanchman. It's time for some pod therapy.
Best potato chip?
Oh,
Best potato chips?
probably Doritos.
Are those the hot ones?
No, they're just plain,
The cheddar ones?
Plain
I always get
nacho.
the Cool Ranch.
I mean, there are right and wrong answers to best potato chip. And
What is-
there's a little bit of leeway in there, but Doritos are obviously not the right answer.
No. What would you
I mean,
put
Lay's are better than
Lay's,
Doritos.
yeah. Wavy Lay's are really good.
Wavy Lay's are better. Ruffles are better than Doritos.
Yeah, I think anything that you
don't
can
know.
dip,
I don't
you
know.
can't do anything with the Dorito.
No.
That's the whole deal is a Dorito. You can't put that in anything.
Dorito
It's
used
a
to have a
simple man's
dippable
chip.
chip. Dorito used to have a dippable chip.
Yeah.
They had one that was...
Oh, that's right.
It was plain. It was just like
plain.
a corn chip.
It was their corn chip. Yeah. Now it's
Really?
always got the powders on them. You can't do anything with it.
Yeah. It was just
Yeah.
the same thing you're eating now without
Other than eat it.
the cancer that's on there.
How about I just...
This show's brought to you by Doritos.
How about this? I'll just lick all the cancer off and then give the chip to you.
Oh,
I'm fine with that.
those are delicious. Yeah, I agree with Jacob. I think best chip is probably the Wavy Lay or Funyuns. I like Funyuns
The
too.
best chip
Funyuns are good.
is not widely available, but it's a Louisiana brand called Zaps.
Zaps?
Zaps is truly the best chip.
Zaps. What
Yeah, just-
kind of chip is it? What's the equivalent?
It's kind of a kettle chip, but the flavors they have are just great.
Kettle chips.
So like a friend of mine who's also from Louisiana, he actually found some at a Las Vegas 7-Eleven the other day, and so he got a few bags of them and brought them in.
I like things like that you really can't get anywhere, and then it's like a
And
very
then they just
specific
pop
place.
up in like one
Yeah.
7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And I've
Or-
been in other 7-Elevens since
Yeah.
he found them, and they are not there.
My wife and I have like a
interesting.
very specific chip. Anytime we go like on a road trip or anytime we travel, it's the twisted Fritos. It's like this
Oh, yeah,
very
yeah.
twisted, like little curly
Those
Q
are
one.
good.
And it's like we started this 13 years ago. Just randomly, that was the bag she came back with, and then it just kept happening. We don't eat them except when on a road trip.
That's weird.
It is weird. I don't know why that happens, but I think it's just because like you can't find them until you're like on the route of road trippiness, and then when you're in those like nether
They're only
regions,
in truck stops.
exactly.
They're in Love's truck stops.
Yes,
Loves.
that's
out in
the
the middle
one
of the desert.
place. The Flying J is like
Yeah.
the one place you can find these things. So yeah, like there's cheeseburger places like that too that I really like Whataburger. You can only find it in like Kingman, Arizona, or like
No,
you have to
there's-
get down to Texas or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they're-
all over in Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Texas is lousy with Whataburger.
Yeah, which is funny because it's not even that good of a burger, but I have nostalgia for
I know,
it.
but that's like every time I'm in Texas, I always
have to
say
get a
I'm
Whataburger.
gonna get a Whataburger.
You
Yeah.
just
and I
started,
still
you just
haven't.
started fights with people.
Oh, okay.
By
Is that-
saying it's not that good of a burger, you just started legit fights with
Oh
people.
yeah, that's how I feel about like when people's like Five Guys cheeseburger is better than In-N-Out, and I'm like, on what planet? Like, if you want to wait an hour for a $20 burger, that's okay, and pay $30 for it. Like, it's just stupid.
They all taste like fast food burgers.
That's you're not wrong.
yeah.
I think it all comes down to it. So, Nick, I'm really glad that you're sitting here just smashing chips while we're talking.
I have one more.
It's a good thing we don't have a show that involves your voice.
I had one more in my hand. I'm not gonna just set it down.
Yeah, no, it had to
I'm
be
done
finished. Okay, great. So now you're going to get your little Doritos crumbs all over the scripts and everything else, and fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, well, all right. So you went, when this is airing, it will have been a couple of weeks ago, but in real life, yesterday, you went to Penn and Teller Fool Us. Was that yesterday
No,
or this
it's
weekend?
Friday. It was
That was on
last-
Friday?
yeah, 2 days
So that
ago.
was a taping of their show. Like,
Right.
that's the TV show that they do. And so you got to be part of the live audience.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. What is it like? I mean, that's your first time ever
was-
being in a TV show, right? Like a real taping.
Kind of. There's a little. I had a little bit in American Idol. Not me, but
Okay.
like kind of participating in that show.
You
But
were on American Idol?
no,
Whoa.
I was
Also,
didn't
when
know
Nick
that.
I
was
was in the
young,
audience.
he played Ruby Huxtable.
That's true. Yeah, you don't recognize because my hair the way it is now. You don't. But yeah,
I love
I
your
didn't know
body
you knew
of
that,
work.
Jacob. Yeah.
I IMDb'd you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just love how random that reference was. You just nailed it.
But for the most part, yes. Other than Rudy Huxtable, this was my first time
Okay.
kind of watching a show.
So how was it? I mean,
it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Does the magic kind of go away when you're sort of watching the whole thing happen? And I'm sure they cut and try it again.
Yeah, there's a lot of cuts and kind of reshoots and stuff like that. But
it kind of takes away the magic.
They're not allowed to do the magic tricks. They're not allowed to retry the magic tricks.
Oh, okay.
Because it is a game show.
Yeah.
There are certain rules and laws, actually, that go along with it being a game show.
Oh, wow.
And so once the magician starts, they are in the contest at that moment.
That's when it goes.
And they are not allowed to reshoot anything
screw
having
up,
to
it's
do
done.
with that. They might go back and reshoot like an angle or something like that just to make the guy look good, or to make the magician
Like
look good.
B-roll stuff?
Exactly. But that's it. But they won't. They
have
will not
one
reshoot
attempt.
the trick. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Because one of the guys, they reshot a few things, but they only reshot him holding the card because they couldn't get, when he was actually doing it, they couldn't get the camera close enough to see the card.
See what he was doing.
The way he was holding it, it didn't really look right.
But you saw the
So they
tricks
reshot
in
that.
real time.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's too bad, too. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because I'm sure...
Did you have to sign something saying you won't reveal who won or anything like that, or how it went?
Probably. I didn't read it. There was
You're going to get home and Penn Jillette's just going to be on your couch. You're like, what's up? Get out.
Yeah, you know what? Let's
This
just
is
stop.
my
I'm
house
just going
now.
to stop talking about this because I don't know. I really don't know what I signed. I signed a
He's
waiver.
going to kick this
I
door
think
open.
you just
and-
signed something saying that if you show up on the show, that it's fine.
I think that's
Yeah.
probably what it was. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a release
So-
of like using your image or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys had
But
good
it's-
seats?
Yeah, we were right behind Penn and Teller. We were.
Oh, that's
like,
awesome.
The row right behind them. So.
Oh, that's really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's weird because they usually get attractive people for those seats.
Oh.
You know what? You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah. Nick texted me. He was so proud of this.
Yes.
He goes, Jim, we got picked for the attractive people. And
Yeah,
I'm
we
like,
did.
what the hell are you talking about? He
I'm
texted
not
me
kidding.
this.
I'm not kidding
Yeah.
because we were in line.
Yeah.
That's a weird text.
It is
well-
a weird text. This is what it's
we were-
like.
No, but we were in line. And we were watching them walk around, and they were pulling people out, and they started a third line. And so the first group they pulled out was these 3 women, all in like cocktail dresses, looking very nice. And then they picked 2 other people, and then I'm like, oh, I know what's going on here. I was like, that's the attractive people line.
They're getting put in a,
You know,
in a
and
special row.
So I told Laura. Laura was wearing her big coat. I was like, Laura,
Take off your coat.
Take the coat off. And she did.
Hike up your skirt a little bit, baby.
She did. And they were.
I'm going to make you a star.
And they kept putting people in this line,
Yeah.
and I could tell they were just about done wrapping up this line. And then I was like starting to get upset. I was like, they're not that attractive, you know. And then the guy walks up, and he's walking by, and he kind of just looks over real
Gave
quick,
you a look.
and he's like,
Is this when you were scouted, Nick?
He's like, are you guys a party of 2? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, come with me.
Come with me.
Yes,
You are
we
sufficiently
made it.
sevens. You can
Yes,
come.
yes.
Did he double take when he looked at you?
Yeah.
Did he like hit
He's like-
play on a boombox?
God, that was a very good
He's like-
story, wasn't it?
I want you.
Nick will never forget the day.
I really want you. He was talking to Laura. I really want you.
But this guy,
Is he with you?
how committed
Do I
are
have
you
to- yeah.
to this? Do you have to see the show
How
together?
willing are you to have a different on-screen boyfriend?
Yeah, because this is not going to work for camera. But
Yeah.
this guy over here, whoop, come over here. Yeah. So congratulations,
Yeah.
Nick. You
So,
were
now,
planted.
To be fair, I'm going to show a little humility. We were the last 2 picked for that line.
Oh, wow.
So but we made the cut.
You made the cut.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah, I'm sitting at home and all of a sudden I get a text and he's like, "Dude, we got picked for the attractive row." And I'm like, I didn't even know where he was. Like, I don't even know what he's talking about. Like, and I'm just like, okay. Like,
The weird thing
at
is
the
Nick-
swingers club. Like, where are you?
Nick doesn't even think it's weird that they made him put one of those green hoods on so that they can go in and post and just put a completely different head on his body.
They didn't do that to everybody?
They animate that guy.
Yeah.
It's all special effects.
There's gonna be a big deal about how Brad Pitt is in the audience that day. It's just gonna be Brad Pitt sitting next to Laura.
Oh
Yeah.
my god! So now I have to watch the show.
I'd be fine with
so
that.
I can see Nick and Laura.
I would
over
be
the
more
shoulder.
upset if it was a cartoon character. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what the hell's
going to
Homer
be a
Simpson
blur?
doing? In...
Yeah, that's part of the magic, man. This is how they do television.
One of the racist crows from Dumbo.
Yeah. How did they even get that in there? Well, congratulations on your fame, Nick.
Thank you.
It's a big deal. Now,
pretty big deal.
Apparently, if you watch the CW's Fool Us, at some point you may see Nick and Laura over the shoulder of Penn or Teller.
Probably not.
Probably not. If you're sitting behind Teller, you have a chance. If you were sitting behind Penn, they'll never know you existed.
We were on Teller's side, but I did catch a glimpse on like the overhead camera of a shot facing back at Penn and Teller, and you can see feet, but it's so dark you can't see faces or anything.
Oh, you didn't write your name on your shoes?
Oh, well, I will next time.
Yeah, now you know.
Yeah.
So tips to the wise: if you go on that show, make sure you put your
bright
ID.
Shoes.
Yeah,
bright colored,
bright
shoes.
neon laces. Well, congratulations, Nick, on all of your success and for your attractiveness. Finally, getting you something in life.
I've made it.
Yeah, this is it.
It feels good having
cashing in.
having grown up really ugly. It feels good to get to that line.
It's so really funny because, like, it's so funny, especially as a male. Like, that doesn't happen in life. Nobody treats us better. Like, that doesn't happen.
Oh, contrary.
Women, they get free stuff all the time.
It does happen.
Wait a minute. Am I the only one that's not getting free stuff? You guys are just getting handed stuff all the time.
If you
thought we were kidding when we just called you the ugly?
That was it. Oh, God. I'm getting left out of all the joy.
If you think that doesn't happen, it tells you where.
That's what it really is.
In.
I remember when I was first married, my wife, she goes to Dunkin' Donuts one morning to get us, some donuts and some coffee. She comes back and she's like really like, kind of like shy and just like really quiet. And I'm like, hey, are you okay? What happened? And she's like, I feel like I need to tell you something. And I'm like, okay, what happened? And she's like, well, the guy at the Dunkin' Donuts like flirted with me. And I was like, okay. Because we were brand new married, like we're 21. And I go, okay. And she's like, he gave me the stuff for free. He said I was really cute and he didn't charge me. And I didn't know what to do, so I just took it. And I'm really sorry. I don't know if you're going to be mad. And I was like, okay, here's what I need you to do. I want you to take off your ring. I want you to go put on the sluttiest clothes you've got. You go back and get me an egg sandwich. And you get his number, all right? And really put yourself out there. All right? Don't hold back. Would it kill you to put some lipstick on? And so that was the day my wife realized that I'm good with this.
No,
I'm married up, and I'm going to use that.
I often and happily let SJ go up to the bar at bars
and get
our drinks.
Go do that, girl. Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's just see what happens. Yeah. Hey, that guy was flirting with me. Okay, did you get a bourbon though? Yeah, I did. Excellent. All right. You know what? Go stand on the other side of the room from me. I don't want him to get any ideas that I'm with you. Just go over there and hang out. Talk to him some more. Just keep handing me drinks. All right. So anyway, speaking of relationships, we have a great question, and I like this one. It's very unique. How do I get out of this affair? Interesting. How do I break up with a person I'm having an affair with? This person is married, but I'm afraid that they would maybe try to destroy my relationship if I attempt to end what we have. I fear they would get in touch with my significant other and cause problems for me just to get some revenge. How can I talk to them in a way that makes it clear that our relationship is over? I don't mean any harm. In fact, I still love this person. I just can't keep doing this and avoid retaliation. Thanks, guys. Anonymous.
So there's two questions in here.
Yeah.
How do I end this affair?
How do I end a relationship?
Yeah.
I think in general, without any blowback.
Right. That's the second one.
Yeah.
Without retaliation.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we kind of have to address each of those because I think we're going to have different answers for those.
Right.
I think as far as how do you break up with a person, I think you do it just as you would with any other person. I think just being honest and just saying, hey, I can't keep doing this anymore.
Right.
Now, how to do that without retaliation? Short of extortion, I don't know. I don't know how you can do that. There's going to be inherent risk anytime a relationship ends.
Yeah. And so obviously to the writer, if I'm just sitting in my little therapist chair and you walk in my office and you tell me this story and you say, so anyway, I'm here today to figure out how to control the situation so that I can kind of back down out of this. I'm really interested in a lot of things about you, right? I'm interested in how the status of your relationship is, your first one, your marriage. I'm interested in why this happened to begin with. I'm interested in what you mean when you say you love the person you're having an affair with and that you really have strong feelings for them, but you're struggling with the context of all this. There are so many layers to this that I think really need to be sort of unpacked and explored and understood. Because this is a very complex letter, I don't think it's just as simple as like, well, here's some advice on communication skills. Like, here's some advice on how to let somebody down easy and not, provoke them to wanting to hurt you. Like, no, there's a lot of layers here that I think make these kinds of questions really complicated because affairs themselves are really complicated.
Well, but just operating off of the information that we've got.
Right.
I really don't see. I think, to the writer, what I'm kind of getting is you want a safe way out of this, and I think we have to change our expectations.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be a 100% complete safe way of getting out of this without somebody getting hurt.
Yes.
I think you just have to accept that and just say, well, if this is the path to moving forward, this is the risk I have to take to getting out of this. Yeah. And I think you're going to have to probably just accept that there could possibly be some blowback, and as of right now, it's out of your hands. Yeah. There's nothing you can really do about that.
No, I think you're right. And, that's fair. I mean, let's keep the advice, scoped down to what the person's asking about. They're not asking how to repair their marriage. They're not asking whether they should break up with this person. They're not asking whether they should reveal it. They're not asking a lot. They're asking a very specific question. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be, as we talked about in the last episode, solution-focused. You're bringing us a broken taillight and saying, fix just that. Don't worry about the rest of the car. Okay. We're just going to do what you ask us to do. The way that you can communicate with a person and break up with them. And I think that this question writes larger than merely the context of an affair. There's a lot of people who are afraid to break up with somebody because they fear that person will have a bad reaction. Sure. And here's 3 reactions I've heard people talk about in the past. I'm afraid that person will hurt themselves. I've heard that before. And so they feel like they have to stay in the relationship because maybe this person's not safe. Are they going to be okay? I'm afraid this person's going to embarrass me on social media or cause some kind of problem in my work life or in some way, hurt my reputation and hurt the way I stand with others. That's another thing. And in this one, it's a very specific one about, is this person going to mess up my family life? But I've heard that too. Mm-hmm. Is this person going to cause problems for my kids or for other people in my life? So the way that you generally do this, if you have to end a relationship with another human being because one reason or another it's not working out, but you fear the consequences of ending it with them. And now I'm stepping away from the original question of just an affair, but any kind of breaking up. The thing is this, I just ask that whenever you break up with somebody, you do it in an intentional way. You try your best not to just text it, not to just email it, not to just say goodbye, but to somehow kind of sit with them if you can in person and sort of let them know. And tell them the truth. Don't do the whole, it's not you, it's me. Don't do the whole, here's, I just can't be with you anymore because so-and-so disapproves. You need to explain your discomfort and tell them at the end of the day, and I'm asking you not to try to fix this. I'm asking you not to try to change this. I have made my decision. But I'm also helping you understand why, because I do care for you, and I want to make sure you walk away with no real question marks, right? I want you to feel like you can ask questions, and we can, and so even though that's messier, and even though that puts you in a position where it's going to be a long conversation, I think that that's how you break up with another person generally, because if you're worried that they're going to overreact, keeping it authentic, keeping it relational, that's the best way for them to walk away and predictably not overreact. It's when people feel hurt and have questions that they tend to do screwy things.
Yeah. And, for all those reasons that you listed of, or concerns that people have, when ending a relationship, none of them are a good enough reason to stay in a relationship.
Right.
So I think we should probably point that out too, even though it sounds like the listener already has made up, their mind. This is what's going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, I think trying to stay in the relationship, that would be a fear that I would have. Yeah. Is somebody in this situation saying well, there's no way out. I can't, I may as well just continue this thing going because if I don't, then they're going to do this. They're going to tell my spouse.
It's not a good reason to stay. And I think one aspect of this particular letter that does make it uniquely challenging. If you're having an affair, you're probably bad-mouthing your original spouse, right? You're probably not saying, hey, I like you, but I'm in a great relationship. Everything's going awesome. You're probably commiserating. And so, if both of you have an original marriage and you're both now, having an affair together, you're probably commiserating and you're probably bad-mouthing and you're probably venting about what you don't like. And so you're worried that if you pull back away from that person, they'll feel like, well, you know what? I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to, the only problem, it isn't us. It's him. And if I can get rid of him, then maybe us can happen, right? And so I will acknowledge that even your best efforts to try to be calm, to be friendly, to be human, even those best efforts really could still blow up. And, and I don't mean to get into a lecture about natural consequences, but yeah, that is part of the risk of everything that's happened here. I still think that the best approach is to be authentic and to tell the person in a human way, and even to ask them, to tell them that fear. Don't hide that and be like, well, if I say it, maybe they'll do it. Like, no, tell them, like, hey, I do have a fear that you're going to be frustrated with this decision and you might, kind of break our rule and talk to somebody about this. Is that something I need to be afraid of? Talk to them about it. But I think in all human relationships, I don't like mind reading. I don't like wondering what the other side's going to do. I like communication. And I think when both people are communicating, they come to real honest answers and we don't live with fear about what the other person's going to do.
Yeah, I get that. But then I also think too that if this person is writing in because they're concerned that this person is going to go tell,
they have reason to believe it.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm concerned about.
That's a good point.
That, like if they had no reason to believe that would ever happen, this person would have written in.
Right.
But obviously it sounds like there is some kind of manipulative tendencies for that person.
Could be.
In that case, I don't know if I would, open up about vulnerabilities.
So maybe you wouldn't tell them the thing you're afraid they're going to do.
I probably wouldn't in that situation. If I really thought that the person might actually do it, I wouldn't want to plant the idea in their head.
So you might just tell them, hey, it's not going to work. This was fun but unsustainable. I wish you the best, but I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay. And you keep it kind of business.
I think I would keep it short, and I think I would just say, even if you really wanted to open up and say, yeah, I still care about you. I think you're a great person, but I personally just can't do this anymore.
Good point.
And then just keep it short, quick.
So to the writer, I think the biggest challenge here is you get one shot at this. And so whether you go with the be relational, be honest, or whether you go with the be succinct, but be clear, we can't know what will work best because we don't know the person. And so read that very carefully. But at a bare minimum to the writer, I'm going to tell you this. If you do not intend to tell your spouse about this, if your hope is that you can just move on or whatever, I don't know, you're not asking us about that, but your fear is they're going to find out. And so I will tell you to prepare yourself for that. Prepare yourself that they're going to find out and what you're going to do in the event that they do. Because if that does happen, I don't want that to hit you completely off guard, like you've never thought about it and you were just hoping that wasn't going to happen. You need to be prepared to accept responsibility and to talk to them about it and for what comes next.
And it's really scary to be in that situation too, where it is literally out of your hands.
Right. Yeah.
You've done all you can do, and now you just have to sit and wait to see what happens with it. That is a scary situation.
It is.
But don't fool yourself into thinking that you do have some control over another person.
You don't.
Yeah. You just, you have to, do your part, and then the cards will fall where they fall.
That's right. But thanks for writing in, and we'd love to hear back. We'd love to hear how this ended up going, and if we were helpful, or if you ended up going another way. At the end of the day, this is a fascinating story. I'd love to hear more about it. Continue to write in anonymously and just tell us, hey, I've written it before. I'm the person that had this, and give us a little update.
Yeah, I'd love to hear an update.
Yeah, thank you so much for writing in.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss getting through low moods. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Smitty Scoop. Smitty Scoop has been conspiring against me to try to get my mom to fill up his advertising block, and he has yet been unsuccessful, I will add. So as long as I can keep those two people apart, I'll be okay.
Oh, I just realized, hey, Tracy's on Facebook.
Oh, that's right, we're Facebook streaming this. Mom! No!
Well played, Smitty. So, Tracy, reach out to Smitty Scoop.
No!
You can find him on Twitter.
No! Don't listen to anything.
Search Smitty Scoop.
If you'd like to join Smitty and make the show possible, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about getting through low moods.
I'm not sure if your guys' relationship is healthy.
No shit.
My 14-year-old daughter has been bullied since 5th grade and has never met her dad. These are the main reasons for her anxiety and depression. Her moods are a hit and miss and seem to come out of nowhere. She's been suicidal at times and has low self-confidence. She has a hard time connecting with others and has really no good friends. She's seen different counselors. Just this last week, she's lost a counselor she's been seeing for over a year or longer. I don't feel that she's ever really gotten the help she needs, but they give her somebody she talks to. She wants meds and to get more balanced. I don't have a great insurance, so I haven't been able to get her for that yet. It seems to be a vigorous process. This week I started looking online for different journaling ideas that I can help her with. What are your guys' suggestions with the process or helping through her low moods? Also, what do I do in scare mode when she is wanting to harm herself? Can I take her to the ER? And what would happen if I did? Thanks so much. Love your podcast, Anonymous.
Okay. This
Great
sounds
question.
sounds a little bit like the question we had in the last show, which is about the struggle. Yeah, the struggle of getting help.
Right.
So if you're listening to this now, you probably listened to last week's episode where we kind of addressed that. I think our advice in this segment would probably be pretty similar to what we said last week. It can definitely be a struggle, and I really empathize with the self-harm. So maybe that's a good place to start.
So yeah, let's take a look at that first. So the first thing is this. I want to pick apart several different pieces I'm hearing in this. One is I'm not sure that the counselors are that helpful. They're giving her somebody to talk to. In the past, Nick and I have talked about how difficult it is to treat an adolescent. And you mentioned that their moods are swinging right now, and she's a 14-year-old girl. And so I realize how tempting it is. A lot of people write in, or a lot of people come see us and say, I think my daughter has bipolar disorder. And I'll say, how old's your daughter? And they're like, 14. It's like, okay, so right there, we're going to probably take a break from seeing this as an illness, right? This is part of par for the course for humans that are going through puberty, right? And I don't hear you using that kind of language. I hear you responding mostly to the danger stuff, self-harm, suicidal thinking, depression. But I want to point out that having a counselor in a person's life, even if the problem itself can't be completely extinguished during the time of treatment, it is being monitored carefully during the time of treatment. And that is valuable in and of itself. And I realize that sometimes we minimize what therapy is, and we say, well, it's a sounding board. Or, well, it's just a person to talk to. At least you have a person to talk to. And that notwithstanding, as that is true, you also have a highly trained professional monitoring a very complicated situation that most humans don't know what to do in. And so that alone can be the security blanket that's really useful. So I just want to say that because I want the author to know there's not a waste in going to therapy in a situation like this. In fact, it's a requirement. Even if the depression doesn't seem to be treatment responsive right now, that's still a good idea. And to that point, to the writer's question of like, what can I do about self-harm? What do I do when I'm in scare mode? I want you to approach the counselor, and I want you to ask, can I please get a copy of the safety plan? Can I please be included in the safety plan? Any counselor is going to have either a verbal or written safety plan with your daughter because she's told him or her that she's going to do self-harm or has in the past or has been suicidal. And so that therapist is going to have a safety plan, and that needs to include mom. Yes. And mom needs to have it spelled out by the professional. Here's what I want you to do in these specific scenarios.
Right. The therapist is kind of quarterbacking that situation.
Yes.
Yeah. And assigning a role to the support system, assigning a role to the parents, or even close friends. That's all going to be very important. So, yeah, definitely get a copy of that safety plan. I mean, if it's really serious, you asked about taking her to the ER. Well,
if somebody's in danger of ending their life, yes. I mean, that is a 911 or that is an ER call, or hopefully you have the counselor's number as well.
Yeah, and that can be a difficult thing to ascertain and to be able to distinguish. Like, is this, because I understand, like, from the parents that I've worked with in the past, from a parent's perspective, everything looks suicidal.
Right. Especially when we talk about cutting and stuff.
And it looks really scary.
Right.
And that's always going to be a place to err on the side of safety.
Right.
But yeah, that can be really difficult to distinguish between cutting behavior versus suicidal ideation.
This underscores the complexity of it.
Right.
Because Nick and I have tried to work with teenagers before who have had self-harm patterns. And in our training, one of the things we have to understand is how nuanced this is.
Right.
That self-harm, like cutting, is not usually an act of I'm ending my life slowly, even though there's that risk that they might do something wrong. It's usually this expression of emotion that they can't otherwise access. Mm-hmm. And so as an outsider, you see this and you go, oh my God, my child's going to kill themselves. And if they're talking suicidally, then yes, that's a present reality. But I just want to underscore, this is complex. This is partly why a professional needs to be involved. They should have a safety plan, and maybe they don't have one written. I know sometimes with kids, I don't want to intimidate them with that, especially while I'm building a relationship. But if you approach them and say, so I'd like to have something that I know what to do because you're the professional. And that's great. The professional will say, absolutely. In event X, I want you to behave Y. In event Z, I want you to behave, W. And that's really nice because then you don't have to be the one who has to figure it out, and you don't have to, hope that Nick and I can spell it out for you. That counselor who knows your daughter should be the one to spell it out.
Exactly. Yeah. And this, it can be very difficult because there's that inherent risk that, by you drawing a lot of attention to it, that the child then it kind of forces the cutting underground, and what would be more obvious now they start cutting in places that are less obvious and actually more dangerous.
Right.
But I don't want to really at this point give you advice on what direction to go with that, being that I don't know your daughter. I'm not involved in the case.
It's too specific.
It is. I
too specific.
I think you need to get with that therapist, with that counselor.
Yes.
And ask the question, to that therapist, how am I as the parent to determine the difference between cutting behavior and suicidal behavior? Teach me what to look for so that I know how I should handle this.
What's the plan? And it's nice because the counselor can involve your daughter. It's not going to be a trap that's sprung on her. Your daughter helps that counselor draft that. And so even the daughter's part of the process of self-care, which is excellent. This is win-win-win. That's what I want to see. Now, there's two other things in this question, Nick, that I think is fun to take a look at. One is medicine. And so you and I have had that question come across us before. Hey, what's your opinion on medicine? It's difficult to access in this case. And so the writer's talking about having, insurance that's not playing very good ball with this. And then also mentions later, like, in the event of emergency, do I go to an ER? So one of the things that's really frustrating about insurances is sometimes they'll kind of like make you go to a primary doctor. The primary doctor acknowledges that there's a problem. Then you go to therapy. Now the therapist acknowledges there's a problem. Then there's a referral to a psychiatrist. Then the psychiatrist acknowledges there's a problem. And finally you get a mild antidepressant that the first doctor should have been able to script. So as a general rule, I tell people if you're looking for a low-dose antidepressant, which your daughter's open to, and I'm fine with, I'm a kitchen sink kind of guy. If it's useful, do it. I don't care. The first stop is to go to that general practice doctor, to tell them about depression, to tell them about suicidal ideation, to tell them that you're also seeing a therapist. If they have that information and then you say, but we would like to ask for, an antidepressant, you'll usually get it. And insurance should generally cover it. If you have any insurance at all, there should be some measure of coverage for mental health medicine. And, again, I don't know your policies, but I would say if it's something your daughter wants, if your therapist agrees that it's a good idea, and again, Nick and I are not diagnosing, we don't know the case. You have got to talk to the therapist. That is the professional on the ground. Always defer to their judgment. But as a general rule, sure, the medicines can be indicated for teenagers. That's fine. Even with adolescents, even with all the things that happen, that's entirely okay, so long as your therapist and the general physician are in agreement that this is okay for the child. I'm fine with that. Now, as far as accessing that medicine, if you have them writing the scripts but your insurance doesn't cover it, things get a lot more complicated. You might want to talk to the physician about alternatives to going to fill the script at a Walgreens or whatever, because they probably know some ways that you can get access to your medications on a discount kind of basis.
Yeah. And, one other question, too, as far as, can I take her to the ER and what would happen?
Yes,
so
good question.
The what would happen is a good question, because I'm sure a lot of listeners have kind of thought about this. Like, okay, if I'm having these thoughts and I go to the ER, what's going to happen? Are they going to lock me up? Or what's, that's a legitimate fear. But ultimately, what the ER is going to do is stabilize.
Yes.
That's ultimately their big goal.
And triage.
Yeah. They're not going to keep you in there any longer than stabilization, because they can't. That's not really their job. So ultimately, if somebody is having suicidal thoughts, has a plan in place, and really close to attempting, they're going to go in there. The ER is going to stabilize them. They'll probably transfer them over to the mental health unit, where they will stabilize. They could be in there for 3 days to 7 days.
Well, the longest that you're probably going to be, like, okay, so worst case scenario, she's assessed by an APRN or she's assessed by somebody on the floor. They say, yes, she's in danger. and we don't feel safe with her walking out of this building right now in the custody of her mother, they would hold her for 72 hours. So 72-hour hold is the general standard of how long it's going to be unless there's further diagnosis. And in this case, I'm not hearing anything like psychotic features, something that would really necessitate that. So probably 3 days at max, which again, I'm not saying the ER is your first stop. I'm saying the therapist's safety plan will tell you when you're supposed to do that, and then you defer to those professionals and you let them do it. Whatever needs to happen should happen. We don't fight it. We don't brace for it. We just go, and we don't anticipate what professionals are going to say or do. We let them make the call based on what they see, and we defer to their judgment, even if it's inconvenient, even if your daughter's frustrated, even if she says, well, this is making me more depressed, and I get that. I've heard that before, but that doesn't mean that it's not the right move.
Right. Now, again, to finish the point with the ER, though, one thing I want to point out is if anybody, not just in this particular case, but anybody listening has a loved one or somebody that goes to the ER for mental health reasons, when they're being discharged, there should be an aftercare plan.
Yes.
There should be some kind of referral in place. ERs should not just be discharging people with okay, you're good, go out and live your life. No, there should be some kind of referral.
Yes.
Where is this person supposed to go for outpatient treatment? And if they're not giving you a referral, you need to ask for one.
Yes, and they
accountable.
Need to have done that on their own. They should figure out who your insurance is and everything. All the details should be finalized when they're dismissed. Last point about this letter that I thought was really interesting. The writer points out, my daughter didn't know her dad. My daughter's 14 now. And the author provides that information, and the writer tells us about this as if to tell us this is part of this. There's an emptiness there. Now, I'm not going to comment on the relationship of not having a father figure and depression because I'm not going to try to make that link. Here's what I am going to say. If you have a son or daughter who has lacked the presence of a male figure in their life, because it's typically the male figure, right? I mean, there's times when you lose a female figure, but it's typically the male. It is not uncommon, I think, especially for Nick and I as male therapists, there's very few of us, and it has not been uncommon in the past that people will specifically ask for us because they think it would be nice for their adolescent or their child to experience a positive male role model who is educated and is not going to ever hurt them and is interested in them and is also therapeutic, right? And that's okay. And I think that that's something that a lot of people sometimes wonder about is, should I do that? Or, is therapy only for when they're hearing voices? No, that itself is a form of therapy where we are trying to help that person start to form a healthy version of a masculine voice in their life so that down the road they don't try to fill that void with any other guy's voice. We want to start at least role modeling. There is such a thing as role modeling as a form of therapy and just being connected to the person. So I just wanted to make that point briefly because the author wrote about it, and I think it's valid. And I think that as a male therapist, I've had lots of folks, young people come in, and boys and girls, that my role is A, to address the problem that's presenting, but B, to also be a healthy masculine voice in their life that's not going to take advantage of them or hurt them and is sincerely interested in them and can kind of demonstrate some of that too.
Definitely.
Even though I would never call Jim or Nick a role model. In fact, disregard everything I just said. It applies to other people. It applies to competent, good male therapists, not the idiots on Pod
Yeah, you should
Therapy.
go find one of them.
Yeah, don't listen to Pod Therapy. In fact, turn this off right now.
Thank you for writing in. We really appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss when it's time to cut down on therapy. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Jake Schneider. Jake Schneider joined us on a previous episode a couple of weeks back with his lovely wife, Judy, and he did an awesome ultra marathon. If you are not already a sponsor of the show, you should go to patreon.com/therapy, and you should hear all about it. Hear Jake tell us all about his awesome journey, and we appreciate his contribution to our Pod Therapy Pinewood Derby. He's contributed 2 vehicles to the race, which will be happening shortly after you hear this broadcast this weekend. Make sure you tune in on our Facebook, Twitter, and other social media so you can see how Jake's amazing Jake-mobile survives in the great races.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question about when is it time to cut down on therapy.
Hello! I've utilized therapy on and off since my teen years, but have truly committed to therapy in the last 3 years after a really difficult time with anxiety. Since that time, I have made some major life changes, including changing my job, intentionally engaging in activities that promote my overall wellness, and finding a medication treatment plan that works for me. Over the last year and a half, I have been slowly tapering off my sessions, going from weekly to monthly. I am finding I now have very little to talk about in my sessions. My therapist has left it open to me how often I would like to have sessions, and I'm having a hard time deciding how to move forward. How do you know when it's time to reduce sessions or even stop attending sessions? While I know that my therapist will always be available to me if or when I need it, I don't feel like I'm getting much out of our time together, nor do I feel like I really need anything from our time together. Does this mean that this part of my mental health journey is done for now? Thank you, Anonymous.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't think we've actually had that question before.
I love
it. Yeah, when is it time to be done with therapy? And, as far as the last question, does this mean that my part of my mental health journey is done for now? No. Your mental health journey is not done. It just means that your therapist's role in that journey may be done or may be changing. You're going to always continue that journey on your own.
Yeah.
And this is kind of looking at it from like a substance abuse treatment perspective. When I train new clinicians, the example that I always use, because it always becomes very difficult, like when do we start to back off off of therapy and
Right.
counseling. And the example that I always use is like when we're learning to ride a bicycle.
Right.
Right. And
When
your mom or dad are holding on and they're running alongside you. And if they let go too soon before you have control of it, you fall.
Right.
But by the same token, if they hold on too long,
Right.
then now you're a hindrance. Now you're
Yes.
a problem and they can't move on without you. And then that causes problems. It's a timing thing and it's got to happen naturally. The other thing too, the other piece of feedback I've got is this is where having a treatment plan is very helpful.
Yeah.
Being able to sit down with your therapist and identify, these are the goals that I want to accomplish. These are the objectives towards that goal. And as you continue on in treatment, you're going to start meeting some of those objectives. You're going to realize that some of them aren't relevant and you'll cross them off. You'll realize that, okay, I've accomplished this one, but a new one's come up and you add that in. And you keep doing that until you get to kind of a spot where you feel like you're in maintenance.
Yes.
You're no longer actively making changes. You've made those changes and now you're just working on maintaining them. And that's something that your therapist can kind of help you out with.
Yeah.
And I would just be completely honest with your therapist because your therapist is probably thinking the same thing.
Well, the therapist sounds like they've already said, hey, it's up to you. Like,
Right.
I've asked you to step down to once a month. We've done that. And now I'm telling you, like, it's open door. Because, I'm putting myself in the therapist's mind.
Yeah.
I will never tell a patient, you can't come back. Or, like,
Right.
we're done. No, that's silly. That's malpractice. Like, you're basically telling them, I don't feel that there's a need anymore. However, you're always welcome back. So you come in as often as you want. Even if that's just to come in and make sure that I'm updated on your file, that I know what the last 6 months have been like for you, in case you need something in the 7th month, in case something cataclysmic happens, you don't want to reintroduce yourself to me, that's fine. And so I kind of know how that therapist is thinking. But my very first reaction is, hey, everybody, therapy works.
Right.
Hey, here's a letter saying, I took this seriously. I gave myself to this process. It didn't happen immediately. I was in therapy for 3 years. I ran out of problems.
Yeah.
Therapy works. It is awesome. And congratulations to the writer.
Absolutely.
This is tremendous for you. And so you heard Nick's first reaction, which is, yes, we in our profession are completely fine with somebody wrapping up their work with us. We realize that we're no longer the level that they need, or, you know what, we've checked off everything on the treatment plan and you're in a good place. I'm completely fine with that. I also have had patients where I'm telling them, I think it's indicated, like usually here's what I tell people. When they come in and they say, can you tell me how long this is going to take? Okay, so like obviously I can never do that, right? I don't have a crystal ball, but I'll tell them, let's pick this model as a way to just start the process. And I'll tell them, I need you to mentally commit to seeing me about once a week for a season on the calendar, right? So if we split the calendar into 4 pieces, there's about 3 months in each piece. Commit to about 12 weeks that I'm going to see you pretty regularly, right? At the end of 12 weeks, if we really feel like we've kind of gotten these things accomplished and you feel good, let's step it down to once every other week for about 2 months, right? And then after that, maybe once a month. And I'm trying to like wean them away.
Yeah.
And that's a thing I think that people don't always understand. And that's another point I want to make. If you're out there and your therapist has started to say that kind of stuff, don't misinterpret that as us pushing you away.
Yes.
That's not accurate. We don't not like you. It's not like we just think it's done or we're sick of you. That's not the case at all. We have an ethical responsibility to sew you back up. We're like emotional surgeons, and we can't have you living the rest of your life with our hand in your chest. You know, like you've got to get out there without us.
Right.
And we want that for you.
Exactly. And we owe you the dignity of being able to get out of your way. And that does happen sometimes, where it's like sometimes the therapist gets in the way of the client's progress. They're doing really good, and then, you know, sometimes we want to jump in and we want to start messing with stuff that doesn't need to be messed with.
And sometimes if you're seeing a therapist through your insurance, sometimes the therapist will be direct, and they will say, so I think we've gotten to the place where we're going to discontinue our work. And you might think, wow, I don't feel ready for that, or I'm not sure. Why are you pushing me out the door? And in those cases, it's because they have to justify everything to the insurance. And if they don't meet the minimum threshold of what an insurance wants, then they can't continue. Whereas if you're seeing somebody out of pocket, they can say, listen, we're here as long as you want to be.
Right.
You're the boss. There is no other insurance we care about.
And there's people I know that have done that before, where they will use their insurance until the insurance cuts them off. And then if they feel like they really need to, they'll continue out of pocket.
So I've had people that we're starting with weekly, and we're working on the more acute problems. Hopefully, as we're solving some things and they're starting to phase down, I start to detect the tension of like, okay, so we don't have lots to talk about, and a lot of the stuff that we started for is starting to be solved. So I'll usually go back to the first day I met them, and I'll read from my notes, and I'll describe like, hey, here's kind of what I met, and let's check in. Teach me, how are you doing today? And they'll usually give me a report card and be like, oh, I'm doing well in this area, this area, this area. And that's when I'll tell them, maybe we should slow it down every other week or once a month. And again, I don't want to disappear from your life, because what we're doing is working. Right? Yeah. And so I don't want to just pop, gone. I want to phase myself out. But even if they tell me, Jim, I don't want you to be completely out of my life, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm fine with falling back to like a life coaching position where I'm kind of around, so that way you don't have to start with a new therapist in the future. And if there's a new problem, then we do it. But to the writer, you know, congratulations. Therapy works if you work it. And yes, I think you sound like you're at a position, your therapist seems to concur with this opinion, and you're asking, is it okay to fade away and not see the therapist anymore? Absolutely. I would tell you to set a reminder on your phone every 6 months to shoot them an email. And just say, hey, Nick, you know, it's me. I just wanted to update you. I'm doing well. You know, this is what's going on at work. Really appreciated our work together. Just like to stay in touch. You know, just so they kind of have a general update on the case. I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, and it's always perfectly fine to kind of step away, and if you need that person later, you need to get back into therapy, just, you know, get back into therapy.
It's easy to pick it back up.
Yeah, that's all normal.
Yeah, I love it. This is one of the best letters, man. To hear how great things are going, and they're ready to phase it down.
I literally cannot imagine anyone saying the words, Jim, I don't want you completely out of my life.
My wife has said that. That's what she writes on all of our anniversary cards. Jim, I don't want you completely out of my life. Happy anniversary, Janelle.
But mostly would be great.
Not entirely, because we have children.
Send pay checks. Some bills.
Yeah, send child support, hugs and kisses, Janelle.
we actually, the funny thing is, for our listeners, is when we record here at the Churn, we actually have a 2-hour limit, because that's all Jacob can stand.
Yeah, he has. It's for health reasons.
Guys, come on,
just can't do it.
Can't do this anymore.
We all have our limits.
Find your way to the door. But great question to Anonymous, and a reminder to everybody: it works if you work it. So work it, because you're worth it. It's true. It's what they say at AA. So
That's the 12 steps.
all right, so let's jump into some announcements. When you are hearing this taping, we will be but days away from the official Pod Therapy Pinewood Derby, which I will do my best to broadcast live through the interwebs on whatever platform I can get a hold of. And at the very bare minimum, I will have some videos, clips, and pictures, and we'll be racing all of our cars. And I believe that it will be Nick and Jim, plus Jake and Judy Schneider, plus Brooks, Lyle, and Jackson. So we've got quite a few racers, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you pay attention for that. It'll be all over the Patreon, but we'll also spill it over everywhere else. And as we are here in mid-March, it's also time to remind you that in May, it's going to be Mental Health Awareness Month. So make sure that you're thinking about how you can help us amplify the message and spread the news that it's okay to deal with mental health. There's no stigma about this, and that anybody who wants help should get help, and nothing should get in their way. Because we're taping this in the past, I have no apologies. I assume that I'm going to have people to apologize to, but for right now, I'm going to...
You're never sincere with your apologies anyway. And
so don't worry about that.
Because we're taping this 2 weeks in advance, we don't know who our new THERAPALs are either.
Yes,
so if you
or
recently...
THERAPODs.
Yes, if you've recently joined, we will get you next time.
Yep, that's right. But we definitely still want to thank our Theraproducers, the elite and mysterious bosses, the shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop Violon, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hotdog Scoop, and Dr. Ben Dawn. If you would like to hear this episode uncut and unedited and enjoy the little bonuses that we throw up onto the web, you can go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you for supporting mental health. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciated it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by opening this episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, and now at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Woot woot!